Hello everyone, welcome to Insurance Business TV as we delve into the travel segment with one of the true experts in the field. Kyle Spartman is Managing Director for Allianz Global Assistance Canada, an executive with vast experience to guide us through what is perhaps one of the most challenging landscapes in recent times, given tariffs, a difficult geopolitical landscape, and of course, plenty of natural catastrophes on Canadian turf. So, what do brokers need to know? Kyle, welcome to Insurance Business TV, and it's been quite the evolving landscape recently, hasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And first, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk about travel insurance. It's something that people don't think too much about. And I've been in the travel insurance business for about 6 years. And if you count back 5 or 6 years, you'll realize that if nothing else has changed, everything has changed. We've had COVID. We finally started to get out of COVID and we started to get into some interesting dynamics in the market, both domestically and globally. So the need for travel insurance, we always like to say, is never more prevalent than when you need it first. And people need it more than ever. So happy to talk, happy to share my insights and what we're thinking about at Allianz Global Assistance.
Talking about change, let's talk about the changing generations. And of course, Gen Z has been going against the grain, as an old guy like me might say, by venturing into the US, often without travel insurance. So tell us a little bit about what their motivations are and what their travel concerns should be.
One of the things that I would start with is think back a few years to when you would have been in the same age cohort as Gen Z, right? Somebody who's in their mid-teenage years to their late 20s. You feel indestructible. You feel like nothing's going to ever go wrong. And fortunately for many travelers and many people of those age demographics, it doesn't happen. But it's quite surprising when we look at our travel statistics that bad things do happen. I mean, whether that is at the beginning of a trip on a cancellation or an interruption, people in those age groups don't often have a ton of money or disposable income. So they are investing in their experiences. And travel is something where they get to go see a concert, they get to go see friends, they're spending weekends, they're doing golf trips, all of the things that you might like to do as you're emerging. And the farthest thing from their mind is what happens when something goes wrong. I mean, as we all know, as insurance professionals, that's why we're here. We're here to help. We're experts in those spaces. At home, I have 4 Gen Zs. 4 of my children are in that age cohort. And to hear them talk about what they're thinking about, they're never thinking about the potential downside risk of things. So I would always say it's important for parents. It's important for teenagers and people just getting their first jobs to understand, hey, sometimes you might have been on your parents' insurance that might have had some out of country medical benefits and you can quickly fall off of those things. So looking into what you have, looking into what you need, just so that you're aware, are things that we think are very important, even for our youngest travelers.
Description when you said that they seem like they're almost indestructible in their own minds. But with that in mind, then how can brokers initiate those value-based conversations with those hesitant Gen Z travelers who maybe either unfamiliar or just plain skeptical of the need for travel insurance?
Number one, I'm going to start with the medical side, which often people who are thinking about travel insurance and worrying about out of country medical are in the older age cohorts that we might speak about a little bit later. Younger people, it's interesting. I was looking at the stats preparing for this conversation, and about 14 to 15% of our complex medical situations are happening with this age group, with the Gen Zs. So they're traveling out of the country. And it was actually striking to me that that number was so high. So 15% of our medical cases, which I would consider a complex outpatient or an in-hospital situation where you're going and you're having to stay at a hospital, are happening with people from these age cohorts. They're probably having a good time. They might be taking advantage of different activities than different travelers of different age groups might be traveling. And reminding people that driving across the border, going to Nashville to see a concert, or going to spend a weekend with a friend somewhere else presents just as much risk as flying across the world. And I often say, if you're more comfortable going into the United States right now, and the people that we're seeing that are less comfortable are not necessarily Gen Zs, they're happy to go to New York, they're happy to go to California, they're happy to go across the border for the weekend. That's just as risky as taking a flight and going much further afield. I did it myself, right? When I had my young children, we would drive to Florida and I didn't necessarily consider the entire risks. So sometimes a broker speaking to a young person, they have to make it real. And I often tell a story of a guy who drove across the border to pump gas in Seattle because he wanted cheap gas. He got stung by a bee and ended up with anaphylactic shock because he didn't know he was allergic to bee stings. I mean, those are things that you just don't think about. So it's not necessarily you're going to get sick and have a drastic issue. There are common real world problems that happen every day that people need to be aware of. I also think brokers can speak, especially when we're talking about other types of insurance. Oftentimes, people are showing up to talk about auto insurance. I mean, I always think it's a perfect time to remind people that out of province, out of country exposes different risks that people should be aware of. And you can get the benefit of having something that's there for you all the time through some of our different travel plans that really aren't that incrementally more expensive on people, but secure their investment. So whether it's the value of the trip, whether it's reminding people about the uncertain events that might, I think brokers can really help to be a trusted advisor to their customers as they show up.
Yeah, quite the sting in that tale you just gave us. Of course, Gen Z is not the only age group on the move, as you mentioned there. Canadian millennial families do appear to be embracing domestic travel in particular, with comprehensive protection as well. Of course, there's been a lot of economic uncertainty since the pandemic, as you mentioned. We know that the financial strain is greatly impacting families with children. Have the travel habits changed, you think?
We're in a little bit of a watch and see, and we're trying to listen to our customers, listen to our travelers as much as we can. One of the things that I would suggest is we did a vacation confidence index survey, and we do this annually. And our summer study found that 71% of millennials feel that an annual vacation is important. And 75% actually said they desperately need it, right? We go through these long winters and sometimes we're hunkered down in the cold. Getting us to a situation where we want to explore and get away from our day to day is really important. I think what's important for families is whether they're choosing to fly to Europe, drive to see family or friends, or visit the US, even domestically, there are coverages that are important for people to think about. So you do have the cancellation, interruption type benefits that you get on what we would call a non-medical product. We think that's certainty and assurance of your investment because we are saving and we're spending a lot of money on our kids. Like I said, I have 4 children and they take me for everything that I have. So those moments when we get a chance to travel as a family are super important. I mean, sometimes not having the opportunity to do those things could be really disruptive of current financial situations and future ones. I think I always like to remind people that traveling out of province, there's also not full medical coverage. So we often feel like we show up to a hospital, to a clinic with our provincial health card from whichever province we're in, and we're going to get cared for in the same way we would when we were at home. You often miss the fact that you don't have full coverages for dental, you don't have full coverages for ambulances, you don't have full coverage for should I have to get somebody to your bedside because you're in such a situation that it's helpful to have a family member there with you in your affairs, which are things that travel insurance can help you with. And final point, the one that I always think about when I have some friends who have had firsthand experience with this, sometimes you got to fly the person home, and that's not covered under government health insurance. So if you got to one of those kind of tail risk events where you are at a hospital and we have to get you to a bed back in your home province, those are things that having the assurance of having travel insurance behind you are really important. And I think brokers and other advisors in the space can really help people to understand that.
You broke a lot of fantastic scenarios there, some really interesting points. Do you think that millennials with young families are getting that balance right then, that excitement of travel with the need for comprehensive protection?
One of the kind of changes that I mentioned before is when COVID happened, we kind of had a couple of years where people were all about travel insurance. They understood there was a clear and present need for it that people could really grab onto with COVID happening. I feel like this year we've kind of, other than the kind of geopolitical tensions that we've been seeing, people have kind of gone back to how they used to consider travel insurance before the pandemic. So reminding your customers and reminding them about what events and what insuring your young family can do is something that we really look for our broker partners to really help people understand. I kind of feel like the uncertainty is as high, if not higher, than during COVID. People had a precise thing around medical and having to cancel because they got COVID or got stuck having to quarantine. The types of events that we're seeing now are very different, right? There are denied entries. There are people that are concerned about going to specific places within the world. And this is not just the US. So thinking about those impacts and what the both financial and I think sometimes mental health burden of those things is really important for people to consider. I think it's very important for brokers to be able to bring the information and insights to customers. And we're doing a lot of work ourselves at bringing these types of information through our marketing packages, through our information that shares those stories. Because it's tough to explain and make it real, because sometimes you have to hit the point that would resonate with a customer when you're adding this on to another type of insurance, or you're reminding people that there is something that they should always consider, that we can give you more extended peace of mind by having some of our annual plans or other products that can work with that. So balancing excitement and getting ready for that trip with always considering the downside risk of things that may happen are things that I believe are easy to forget. You're usually thinking about the excitement and the joy of what's going to happen. You're not necessarily thinking about the unfortunate situations that unfortunately do happen.
Now, of course, if we've spoken about Gen Z and millennials, we shouldn't leave out seniors as well. There's been a rise in travel concerns to the US among Canadians, as we know. So, how are snowbirds responding? And indeed, how can brokers proactively address their anxieties when recommending travel insurance?
The thing that is keeping me up at night, to use the phrase that many people in my chairs across different industries think about, is what is this large population of Canadian travelers, whether they're seniors or not, who traditionally are looking for fun and sun, going down to properties they might own in the United States. What are these external forces going to have an impact on those decisions that people are making? We're looking for insights. We're looking for conversations, like I said, with the people that are phoning us to ask us for insights and input. And I'm even talking to my mother's community as an example about, are they changing their travel plans for this coming winter? So this is really emerging towards the time when seniors and snowbirds start to think about what are they going to do in the winter. So September, October are really the times where they're booking their trips, thinking about where they're going, thinking about when they're going to be going. And seniors are always great at thinking about travel insurance, quite frankly. It's one of their real things that they're most educated on, right? They understand pre-existing conditions, they understand coverage limits, they understand how long they can be out of the country. I think a broker being prepared to have a conversation about what's changing this year. Are you planning to go to that Florida home that you've gone to for the last 5 years? Are you planning to take a trip to Europe? Many people don't know that there are different locations that have similar concerns medically to the United States. So we feel like this coming winter, Mexico might be an interesting area where people are going. But medical in Mexico is just as expensive and complicated as it is in the United States. So really using the resources and insights that we're providing, allowing us to help you understand what does it mean when you're going to certain destinations. We can help the broker understand those things, and we're happy to help. We're providing that information and insights, and we're trying to bring as much through conversations like the one we're having right now, so that people know that they should be bringing these topics up. So kind of in summary, I would say we're emerging as we come out of July into August from when people are starting to think about it, bringing the insights about what is the right travel package that you have, whether it's with Allianz or with another insurer. Making sure you have the coverage that fits your needs for your time out of the country is really important. And this winter will be something interesting because we actually don't know how many people are going to change their patterns from previous years. It's one of the big unknowns that we have right now.
Let's delve a little bit deeper, if we can, into the tips that we're offering to brokers here. Are there any particular product features or coverage options that are perhaps proving more attractive to senior travelers this year?
One of the things that we've always focused on, and something that's pretty interesting and exciting for seniors is annual travel plans. These plans are traditionally built to allow you to be out of a country for a certain number of days or a certain number of different locations around the world. One of our primary products for that age group is our annual medical flex plan, which we like to consider as a bank of days, and it allows you to go to various locations. So it gives you the peace of mind, especially for people that might be choosing to go to more different locations than going to one location for a longer period of time. Coverage wherever they go. I also think one of the things that we've invested a lot as an entity, as Allianz globally, is in telemedicine services. It's really important that you have the ability for the common illnesses, which in our statistics say up to about 2/3 of problems that people have during travel can be cared for with telemedicine. So we cover telemedicine across over 90 countries globally, meaning if you're in Asia, Europe, Australia, anywhere in the world, you can speak to a doctor that can prescribe medication for you should you need it by a phone visit or a virtual care visit. Many of those locations also will allow you to upgrade to a different provider or clinic if you had to have different tests or things to make sure that we had cared for your specific medical emergency. So having a provider that has the extensive reach and not just are focusing on Canada or the US for telemedicine, making sure that you have that. So you're talking to somebody that you're confident in. We often go to see where Canadian travelers are going, and we are responsible in Allianz Group for North and South America. So we visit hospitals, we visit providers and clinics and air ambulance providers, and some of them you don't want to go to. So I often say I would much rather be able to direct my mother, my significant family members to a trusted advisor. And that's what we've done with our telemedicine service. Making that work is important. The final thing that I think is important that I would say is we've really tried to simplify our medical questionnaire. This is often, if you were to poll seniors or snowbirds, they're most concerned about wording preference or wording items within the terms and conditions of a policy and what might not be covered. Often they know their type of medical afflictions or different issues that they have. And we've shrunk our medical questionnaire from about 27 questions to 3. And it really gives the peace of mind. We're happy to insure people for many of the different things that they may have going on. If you're healthy, you're going to have a really good price. If you have some medical conditions, you might pay a little bit more. But having that certainty and from a broker perspective, not worrying about E&O coverage when you might have answered a question wrong is something that has often kept brokers away from doing this. So that simplified medical questionnaire really gets people to easily have a conversation with customers, when they talk to them.
Yeah, very, very useful indeed. And indeed, Kyle, you've been very generous with your time. Just one more question to throw at you, if I may. What role do you think storytelling plays in influencing purchase decisions?
It is quite frankly how I have this job. Since I've joined this company 6 years ago, been able to translate a product feature and benefit into a real world experience that is really important for you to be able to explain why travel insurance is important from a customer perspective. My favorite stories, I've told the one about the gas in Seattle. I'd like to tell the story about the $1.4 million broken leg in Las Vegas. We have stories about premature babies in Minneapolis that cost $4 million. And then we have more global situations where we've had to break people out of hospitals where they were being held hostage for tens of thousands of dollars of payments that were not warranted. Those are meaningful, right? Those people understand. And when I am able to articulate those things, it kind of makes it real. So we often spend a lot of time with our broker partners telling those stories, giving them the ideas that might be thought starters. When you talk about gas in Seattle, you can talk about auto insurance. When you talk about broken legs in Las Vegas, you can talk about medical. So there's a ton of different options and opportunities to influence storytelling. I often say I want to be the marketing partner for travel insurance for my broker partners. So our marketing team is really working at giving insights that can be quick snippets in a newsletter, could be social media postings. We're happy to do it for our partners so that they can make it real. We'd like to make it easy to sell, easy to buy, and easy to understand. Having those moments that matter, those pictures that can really resonate with people about why it's important to think about travel insurance are really the core to what we do. And it's really important with a distributed sales force like a broker market to make sure that they can bring it in as the secondary product that they might be talking about or the third product. But people are likely to say, oh, I need that. So super important to have good stories to tell. I'm always happy to tell a story about the wounds of different complicated claims that we've dealt with and how well we've supported Canadian travelers during their times of need.
Yeah, obviously a lot of fascinating stories to delve into there. And clearly, Kyle and the Allianz Global Assistance Canada team are the experts on all things Canadian travel insurance. And of course, if you want more expert insights from across the insurance industry, then keep it right here on Insurance Business TV.